Not bad. Not bad. Not bad. It wasn't too loud. Jean has real sensitive ears.
Oh, I think it's a gunshot.
It's a gunshot. Anyways, welcome everybody, and it's not snowing at the moment, which is nice. I came back from the south, was there last week, and I thought I'd come back to the spring, get my clubs out, start playing a bit of golf, and nothing but snow since. So.
How's that working for you?
And I thought, and Louise is with us today, and I'll more formal introduction, but every time she's tried to come, there's been a snowstorm, so we finally got her here. It's spring now, so we have a,
25 degrees.
yeah. So welcome everybody, and I will just start this off with we're already in open, so we'll be Deputy Mayor Faulkner, seconded by Councillor Anderson. The minutes of the December 12th, 2017 budget meeting be approved. All in favor? Great. Moved by Councillor Dirksen, seconded by Councillor Caldwell. The minutes of the January 11th, 2018 budget meeting be approved. All in favor? Moved by Councillor Turton, seconded by Deputy Mayor Faulkner. The minutes of the March 20th, 2018 council meeting be approved. All in favor?
No.
Oh, we had one more. Moved by Councillor Anderson, seconded by Councillor Elliott. The Town of Minto Council convenes in the committee of the whole. All in favor? Okay. Now, additional items. Anybody? Oh, I've got one or two. Additional items. Anybody else? Dave? Anybody else? If you do, let me know later. Okay. And delegations. We're on delegations, right?
Yes, because our public meeting is.
Public meeting is until 5. It's in the thing, but it's not till 5 o'clock, so we can't. It's only 3, so we're not going to do that. So we have delegations. As I said before, Louisa, nice to see you here. If you would like to come up, and Louisa is the director of Children's Early Years Division, and we've got some. Yeah, you sit or stand. It's up to you.
Not to worry, your presentation will be up in 1 second.
Yeah, we'll get the presentation up for you. And just make sure you speak into the mic, because we're like, there's thousands of people watch us on television. What pages? Well, not maybe thousands. Might be a little high.
Okay. Scores, anyway.
So 34. Yeah.
Just waiting for the slide deck to come up.
And we're really excited that you're here, because
live.
you bring good news. And this will get out to the public. So here we go.
So just a way of telling you why I'm here today is that there have been some significant changes to the childcare, the old childcare division. We're now called the Children's Early Years Division because we've done some changes to our division based on some of the new requirements that the province has passed over to us.
Hang on, hang on.
What's going on here?
What'd you do to this bill?
Yeah, I'm good.
Well, that's
here.
a great shot.
There you
But I don't know what that is at the bottom.
Well, this looks like almost like. What's happening?
I'm doing that.
Learn something new, Bill. You want to borrow my lap?
No, we need it up on the
Why
screen.
don't you go show me how to do it?
We're going online here. Well, this is all right. This is a technical problem. We'll get you there. Oh, I never saw that before. This is not good.
Apple TV. This is smoke them if you got them.
There it is.
There we go.
Woo!
Candy.
We're running. Hey. Sorry, Louise.
So how do I change the slide?
Yeah, you're good now.
I just let you go.
Give me a
Okay.
look. Okay.
Yeah.
So just a recap is that the Children's Early Years Division is part of social services under the County of Wellington. The counterparts there are Housing and Ontario Works, and the Corporation of the County of Wellington delivers services to the Wellington Service Delivery Area, which is the City of Guelph as well as all of the County of Wellington. So as of January 1st, 2018, the province has now designated that the county become the planner and manager of the Child and Family Support Services System. Within our community historically, there was the Ontario Early Years programs. You would know that through the CRC and East Wellington Community Services. And in the city of Guelph, they had the Ontario Early Years programs. They also had a Better Beginnings, Better Futures program. So the province has now said that the county will be the planner and manager of the funding that they had historically been giving these agencies. So we've entered into purchase of service agreements with them. With that, we can go to the next slide. They have told us that there are some guiding principles that we have to follow in doing so. So it's not just a simple rebranding. Going back, they've rebranded them all as early on centers. So they're no longer called Ontario Earlier Centers or Better Beginnings. They're now called Early On Centers. And with that rebranding, they said that we would like to have them renewed as well. So what we need to do is ensure that these programs are family-centered, that they're welcoming to families, that they're high quality, that they're inclusive of all families, and they are led by the community. And they've also identified some key goals. I'm not going to go through all of them, but those are the goals that we have to achieve and while we're renewing these services to families. The other thing is that all the programs that they deliver from now on need to be evidence-based. We have to have them evaluated against some outcomes that the ministry is now looking for us to ensure that are being delivered. So more of, data sets and evaluation and proving that these services to families are actually making a difference in children and families' lives. We know that in the childcare system, there's a lot of research that supports that if the childcare center is of high quality, that does have an impact on the trajectory of that child's life. However, there is no evidence to show that child and family centers do that. And quite honestly, I don't know that it ever will, because we know that you have to be engaged in something for a consistent period of time and over multiple times in order for it to actually have an impact. That said, the child and family centers are there to support families, the parents and caregivers of children in their role of being a parent and a caregiver. So we're that place to go where you have some questions about child development, pre and postnatal support services, nutrition, child development questions, anything that a family would want to have in order to help them do a job of being the best parent that they can be is where this service will be for them. Our principles are the same as we would in childcare. They need to be high quality, they need to be equitably accessible, equitably available, and they need to be affordable. For childcare, we have fee subsidies for families. We also provide a lot of subsidies to the operation of a childcare center to have their rates for parents stay more affordable. But when it comes to the Ontario Early Years Centers, we are not allowed to charge families a fee for service. It all has to be from the program itself. So they've also identified some core mandatory services that we have to provide, and that is activities that engages parents and caregivers with the centers and the services that we provide. They have to support early learning and child development through play groups, drop-in programs, registered programs where families are attending with their children. It has to be a place where families can make connections to other services in the community that they need specifically for their child, like occupational therapy, physical therapy, speech therapy. And it also is something that can support the family as a whole. So while these centers are based on families for birth to 6, we believe that it has to encompass the whole family. Because if the parent has a 13-year-old that's really presenting some challenges to that family, that family can't really get down to other factors until we support them with the older child or whatever it is that they might need. Putting food on the table, putting a roof over their head. We all know that those basic ideas that you need has to be there in order for you to sit down and try to be a productive parent with your children. So they can go into secondary services as well, specialized services for children, integrated services for children and youth. That's why we've stretched this out a little bit and provided some support for youth programs. And they can also provide community services such as food banks and food cupboards and clothing cupboards and things like that. And that's, again, branching it out to support the whole family rather than just, sorry, your child is 7, this place is not for you. Sorry, you have to go somewhere else. Next slide. So moving a little bit to your early years services right now, this is the childcare portion of it. You will see that overall in our community, we have space for 16% of the birth to 4 population across our service delivery area. If you break that down to the city of Guelph, it's 22%. And if you see for the county of Wellington, it's a mere 7.5%.
Mhm.
You'll notice that when the province talks about increasing access to 100,000 spaces across the province for children, they're trying to bring it from 20 to 40. And we've been advocating to say, well, let's bring the communities that aren't even up to 20 yet to 20%. So we've been working closely with the school boards, and we continue to work closely with the school boards to see whether or not we can apply for capital funds to build a childcare center next to a school. We've been successful in some of those applications, so we are going to be opening up 160 spaces across the county of Wellington by the end of this year. So that'll help with that 7.5%. Specifically for Minto, right now we're at, there are, according to the 2016 census data, we have 425 children, birth to 4, living in the town of Minto, and we have only 13 licensed center-based childcare spaces, and that happens to be directly operated by the County of Wellington. So we're sitting at 3%. So we are a far cry from that 20%. We were successful in obtaining a capital project at Palmerston Public School. And so those spaces, if we can go to the next slide, that will create 49 spaces. And the idea behind that is to move the 13 spaces over to the school and then to have a center of 49 spaces there. We are currently working with the school board to come up with an agreement for us to move over into that space. That has not been finalized yet, but that is our intent, and we will let you know as soon as we have confirmation that we will be, in fact, directly operating that childcare center. That would bring your percentage to 11.5. So that's still not close to 20%. So we're continuing to work with the school board to look at other schools within the town of Minto where we can actually build and open up more childcare spaces in order to try to get to that 20%. That's the mark that we're looking for. Early on centers, at this point in time, we can say that there are none in the town of Minto. So what we need to do is to look at some strategies in order to bring some of those services to us. I believe there is a satellite program that happens here, but it's not near as much as what you need for 425 children. So what we're doing, this is part of our community engagement strategy, coming to the local councils, talking about what we're doing, and what we're looking for is an advocate with amongst your council members, or that you can designate a staff person to help us engage with families. So we're going to be having an online survey that's going to be available for families to go online and complete about what services do you want when it comes to an early on center, and tell us a little bit more about what you would like for childcare. And we're going to be doing community in-person conversations where we've hired a consultation company, Sage Solutions, who will facilitate that for us. So families can come together and provide their feedback in person. They can go online and complete the survey. Once those surveys are available and we've looked at all the information that we're getting, we're going to be coming out and wanting to develop an ad hoc working group for the community. So we want community members, and we would really like to have a counselor on that committee. Businesses, the Rotary Club, the media. There's a media person in the town of Erin that said that they want to be part of that group. Anyone that wants to look at, this is what families said that they need and want in their community. How can we work together to try and make that happen? We will build in everything that we have with our provincial funds, but I can tell you that we did not receive an increase with this. They've told us that we have to expand the services, but with the existing funding that we have right now. So looking for different ways of, how can we work together to try to make that come to fruition as much as possible. Before the community engagement happens, what we'd like to do is sit down with somebody to say, tell us about those things in your community that aren't your typical agencies, schools. Like we have all of that covered, libraries. But where are there some grassroots sort of places where families have naturally connected that we can tap into and allow them to be more aware of what's happening and start to participate and fill out that survey. You will also see people coming to places where families congregate with their iPads and information and trying to get them to either do the online survey or have those conversations with them to feed some information to what it is that we're doing. And that's going to come up with an overall plan as to what we're going to do in each community, because each community is different. And we can't come and say, here's a provincial program. We're going to come into your community. We're going to provide this and you're all going to be much better for it. It's not going to work that way. We have to talk to the community, say, what would you like to do? What would you like to have? What do you need as parents? And you also have to definitely respect the role of the parents and what they want for their families. They don't need an expert coming in and telling them what they need, for their children to thrive. Parents already know that. So what we have to do is build on the expertise of the family and make this about them and not about a provincial program. So our request is for a contact person to advise us on the engagement strategies and for a member of council to participate on the advisory group.
Good.
And I'm happy to answer any questions.
Yes. Questions, Mary Lou?
At one point you said you couldn't charge for the service, just for the program. Can you expand on that?
So when a family enters an early on center, whether it's a satellite program or a brick and mortar site, we cannot, and they want to participate in a play group, or they want to take a prenatal class, or go to some sort of therapy session for their children. There's no charge to the families at all. So whatever service we provide them, it's at no cost at all to the families.
But that's what you're saying. They didn't give you any funding for that.
They didn't give us
Additional funding
to provide more of that. But right now, the province does fund these programs. And so we've been tasked with the fact to try to be as creative as possible to do more with the same amount of funding that they have been historically been given the agencies.
Good. Dave and then Ron.
Thank you, Mayor Rich. Louisa, you talked about 425 kids in Minto from, was it 0 to
birth to up
4?
age 4.
How does that compare to, like, are we growing in numbers, or how does it compare? Do you have the numbers 5 years ago?
I do not, but I can get that for you. I think that overall the county has been growing at different rates. We haven't seen a decline at all. But we do see that communities like Central Wellington is one that really pops up. They're growing quite fast. But we do take a look at future. We work with the planning department at the county to see where there might be more households and more development. Industry, what industry is coming? Will that force a need for housing? And childcare is always going to be needed there. So the rate of growth, I don't know, but I can say that it is growing, but I don't have the numbers with me right now, but I can definitely get that for you.
That's fine, thanks.
The brick and mortar part.
Yes.
Is there any statistics that show that the early on program is just as good when it's associated with a present public school, or if it's an independent location?
So what the ministry, because we're all reporting to the Ministry of Education now. So we switched over from the Ministry of Community and Social Services to the Ministry of Education back in 2011. So this government has a policy, a schools first policy. So where there is space, and in 2 of the new locations, one in Rockwood and one in Erin, we're building a site where there is 49 childcare spaces and there's an early on program. And one is a retrofit of an existing school and one is a separate build. The one in Rockwood is a separate build on school board land detached from the school, but it has both. And so when we're applying for these capital builds to the ministry, we're asking for the brick and mortar of a childcare center and an early on program where there's space.
So did you mention Palmerston, right?
Palmerston. So when we submitted the application for Palmerston, that would have been back in 2015. At that point in time, the funding for the early on was not available. So that was one thing. It wasn't, but we could add on to it. But the problem with Erin Public School is that there's no additional space for us to put an early on center on that land.
But there is in Palmerston, correct?
There's not in Palmerston.
Oh, not
no.
in Palmerston.
Not in Palmerston. So number one, it was that the capital funding was not there at the time that we submitted that application. And the second thing is, even if the funding was there, the school board indicated that the center that we're building right now for 49 can't be any larger than what it is right now. So when you're looking for an early on center, you're looking at about 5 to 1,000 square feet more than that to be attached onto the childcare center. So for Palmerston, what we're looking for is another community space where we might be able to deliver the services as close to the school as we possibly can. But in some communities, it doesn't make sense for people who are not engaged with the school for it to be next to a school. Sometimes if the children are bused out to something somewhere out in the county, it doesn't make sense to have people engage, like participate in that. We might have to look for something that's more central in the town area, right? Where families go, like next to a library or something like that. So they're saying to us, schools first is what you should be working towards, but it's not the be all end all. Like it could be that we go to another community space.
Ron?
Yeah, Palmerston, if I'm correct, it's all set to go, and it's going to be.
From what we know right now, it's expected to be open the fall of 2018.
Okay, and that's just going to be like a daycare.
Childcare center, yes.
Childcare center.
Now, what you're looking for is additional space for this other program. Am I correct?
It would be something that we are going to be looking at, and we would be looking at that when we form this working group.
Mm-hmm.
So it's something that you would rent or something that you would buy, or what is it? What is it?
We would need to rent it. We would need to rent some space from a business or
from Monday to Friday.
Yeah.
Same time as the school, kind of 9 to 3 kind of thing.
With the early on centers, you bring up a good point. We have to provide services in the evening and weekends as well.
Yeah.
So
you have to have a place pretty well to yourself.
Yes. Yeah. Unless it's a satellite, we could do a satellite activity. For instance, in the childcare center, we can do an evening satellite location program at the childcare center because we're doing it after the childcare center is closed. So those are ways that you can be very creative as to say, what can we provide in pieces rather than having a brick and mortar site. But through the surveys, it might show that families want a brick and mortar site. So you'd want to say, well, let's try and see if we can make that happen. And if we can't, then we would move to doing a satellite or a mobile site.
So what we have to do, Ron, is we have to get this working group going to get the surveys done to see how it fits in our area.
Mm-hmm.
And so,
yeah.
If I could,
yep, no, yep.
Mm-hmm.
and don't want to take up all the time, dollars and cents wise, that building in Palmerston, is the county going to pay for keeping it heated, keeping it upgraded, and all that? Or is that education that takes care of that? Where's the dollars and cents?
Just to be clear, the childcare center funding, that would come out of our budget, and we would pay operational costs to occupy that space, and we would pay that to the school board.
So did the county build that, or did
the school board built that?
The
ministry gave school boards childcare funding to build a childcare center.
So the county's going to use the space?
Yeah, as an occupant.
Mm-hmm.
As an occupant?
Yes.
Pay for the upkeep.
That's part of the negotiating the agreement that we're still working on and have been for 3 months.
Looking forward to it coming forward.
Yeah. Okay. Jean?
I would just like to indicate my interest. I don't know what the process here is.
Well, Jean has already actually volunteered. If we don't get another board member or another council member, she's very interested in this. So she sent a note off to me. Appreciate that.
It's something that we need for the kids, for the families, to support them. And there's some challenges in rural areas, but up with some viable solutions.
Yes, thank you.
Moving forward, if nobody else wants to fight before it.
Yeah.
I'm not going to fight.
Well, and maybe if I just sum it up and talking for the council, I've heard from most of them now, and I think there's a lot of support for this. What's it called? The early on program. I'm hoping we can find a spot. I know if we vacate the spot we have now, that might be a possibility. I don't know how big it is, but that's big enough that you're using now.
It would be a perfect location.
So that was one of the things we could look at, because right now we're letting that because of the the goodness of the county to put the daycare in. We're not charging rent on that, and basically you're looking after all the upkeep. So that's something this council could look at, and I think it's a surplus for us, so that's something we could work on, because I think that program is so important. I've always said we used to get these numbers out from the school boards, and they would rate our grade threes, and our grade threes would always be rated lower than the cities. And I remember a previous counselor always talking about that. And one of the big things, and you and I have had all these discussions, Louisa, part of it is that early child care. I mean, I know you can't really quantitate it somewhat and say that it's perfectly, this is what makes this happen. But because the cities have the child care programs that we didn't have, our kids catch up in school later on. But that first initial testing period, and I think it's in grade 3, we tend to be low. And I always wondered about that. And part of it is, the more you research it, is the child care and allowing, and to see 425 residents, or like young residents we have out there, we need all the programs we can get. And I think from an economic development standpoint and from what we're working on, we'll give as much support as possible for this program to go forward and work with you. And if Jean sounds like you're maybe the one, and I know Jean has a passion for this, so that she'll be able to help out, and I'll participate where I can. But definitely, I hope that I'm speaking for the council that we want to support this 110%. And thanks for your presentation today. And I'm looking forward to getting that open.
Yes.
Now, I noticed there was 110 infants there on your slide, which I know was maybe a misprint because I was kind of excited. If you go back, Bill, the numbers didn't add up because it was 110 infants. And I thought, oh my goodness, 110
10 infants. Yes.
Yeah. 110. I was going to say, wouldn't that be something to see 110 little cribs in there? But it'd be like stacking them. Anyways, thanks very much, Louisa. Any other questions for Louisa? And we have one thing I want to say before Louisa gets away. She's the expert in this whole area for the province. And Eddie's our head of social services, and I know he appreciates all the hard work that you put in.
Yes, thank you.
And when I go to functions and they constantly talk about, if Louisa thinks it's going to work, then it'll work. And you're the expert out there, so thanks very much for coming up and helping us. Thanks. Okay. Do we need we should have a motion on that to vote to nominate. Moved by Ron. What's the motion?
What is the
Change
your
Gene's the one.
To accept the report.
member
and
councils
Jean-
to participate on the
Okay, yep.
advisory.
Well, let's do it. Yep. Let's motion that Jean would be our member. Moved by Ron, second by Judy. All in favor? Good. You're in now. You can't back out now. You're in.
Okay. Yeah.
It's on
Probably a
tape.
staff person too.
Well, and we're definitely a staff person. I have a couple in mind. They're all looking over there.
I think it's Matt.
They're all going like this.
Oh, not me.
Matt.
No, that's what I thought. I don't think I can
All
make
right.
a motion.
Well, we're blessed to have two good delegations today. It's not often we have two great delegations, and we have Marlene Ottens, and she's doing the Wellington County Farm Safety, and it's is it fun being that side of the counter, not on this side?
I don't know. We'll find out. I'll tell you.
Well, thanks Marlene for coming, and
Everybody's in a
Yep.
good mood.
Good.
Okay, good.
and we get your.
All right. You have my report. It's
Yeah.
a little bland to look at, but I assume you've all read through it.
Mhm.
I'll just touch base on a few things. The Wellington County Farms and Home Safety Association. We focus mostly on farm safety, but we do touch on home safety and community safety as well. We have representation from most of the municipalities in Wellington County. We were happy to get Judy to join our group last year as a Minto representative, and that's been wonderful. We do a few different kinds of things. We go to events such as safety days where we'll set up a booth and then groups of people will walk through, kids with adults, and they will learn our message. So we'll end up spending a day repeating the same message over and over and over, and each time to a different set of 10 to 20 kids. Or we'll go to something like the Drayton Farm Show where people come to us, and then we'll talk to kids or adults, and we'll stand there for 2 days. And I was just there a couple weeks ago, and I said I kind of felt like I was their confessional because I was hearing all these things from the older generation saying, oh, we used to do that and we used to do that. And that's it's funny, but it's kind of one of the issues with farm safety is that people feel like if they did it that way, then why change? And that's the message that we're trying to bring out is that just because you survived it, the ones who didn't aren't here to argue back that it's not a good idea. And that's kind of what we talk about. We do have a Minto Safety Day coming up, and there was a different date, I'm not sure, but it is on May 4 in the Palmerston Arena. So we have our annual day coming up, and we have one in Mapleton, and we have some other days like that as well. And we don't have any paid people on our committee. It's all volunteer members, and I have a little list here. The number of volunteer hours that have been put in 2017 were about, how does he work in here? 368 volunteer hours when you add up all the different events and the number of people that attend the different events. So you can see how it's important. Now, in addition to people, we need a bit of money to run our committee, and generally we get $500 from each municipality, and that's why I'm here. And what we do with the money is not only run these safety days, but we have giveaways. So we'll have things like we tap into as much free things as we can, but we also purchase things. A popular one is the coloring book, and it's a great book for kids. It's all farm safety activities and coloring pages and stickers, and we've given a lot of these away, but they cost money. Another aspect of our safety message that we've been working with is the Stop, Think, Act. And basically we encourage kids with the wristbands before they do anything. Kids and adults, we give these to adults too. Before you do anything, stop. Think about what you're going to do. Ask, is there anything that I could do differently and more safer, and then act, rather than the current, what a lot of people do is they act first, and then they're forced to stop and then think about what they did wrong. Just to touch on some statistics about farm safety, it is the third most dangerous occupation, farming. However, it's one of the few where kids are on the workplace 24/7. Imagine if kids were in a lumberyard, or kids were on a construction site. You just wouldn't have that. But kids are always around the farm day and night. The equipment goes by, the chemicals are laying around. They shouldn't be, but they are. And things like that. It's one of the few, so it requires a lot of education, and that's kind of where where our group focuses the message. And we do talk to a lot of kids. Another thing we did was create the safety box. I don't know if their picture was included here or not.
Yes. Yep.
It's hard to see, so we've created that, and it draws a lot of attention. This is at the Drayton Farm Show, and we set it up so that there's a dozen different little farm hazards in there, and the kids and adults love to do this too, is identify all the things in this little pretend farm that are not safe. And they'll have a heyday, the kids pointing out what's wrong, and they'll always want to play with it. And the adults, again, will have a heyday pointing out all the things they did. So, the message has to continue. And then that's where we give these out, and we say, if you're wearing this, maybe you'll think and before you act. So this is kind of where we're ending with the message here, is we're just asking if Minto would consider a full $500 donation. And we're also kind of focusing on ATV safety. That's another area that's it's a big thing, urban and rural, and there's a lot of unknowns there. People have ATVs, people in town have them, and nobody really knows where they're allowed to drive them and where they're not. And we hold these information nights. We had one in Tiviotdale a couple of years ago, and the people were spilling out the doors. There were so many in attendance. We have another one tomorrow in Center Wellington, but anyone's allowed to come. It's at in the Aboyne room at the Wellington County Museum. It's at 7:30 tomorrow night, and it's basically the OPP will present the information about what's allowed, what's required when you have an ATV, and there will be a question and answer session. for anyone who attends. And what we would kind of like from a farm safety organization is kind of a unified approach from all the municipalities as far as an ATV bylaw goes, and where they're allowed to drive and where they're not, because now we don't have anything, and it just has to abide by the Highway Traffic Act, and the OPP really can't be bothered to come every time somebody calls because someone's driving an ATV down the road because they've got bigger problems. So those are our two issues. So
Of course, I know what Deputy Mayor Faulkner wants to talk about
Yep.
is ATVs, so
Yep.
go ahead. Is that no? Am I
No.
wrong?
Are side-by-sides considered in your ATV discussion?
yeah, when I say ATV,
Yeah.
I just mean all off-road vehicles.
Yes.
Yeah. All off-road, UTV.
Off-road vehicle.
Different people, utility, vehicles, like it's a broader
Yeah,
range of vehicles, but we just say ATV because it kind of is an
Catches
easier
it
way
all.
to catch them all.
Judy?
Just wanted to thank Marlene for coming. This is a very dedicated, passionate group. We meet in Alma once a month, and there's representation from most of the councils on that one. And I was noticing in some of the farm papers and magazines that we get that these safety messages are really starting to come out, because they always do in the spring, of course. And it's really important that we make safety top of mind on the farm and in the home every day.
I just,
I'd be happy to make that motion. If
I was going to say, you want to make a motion on the $500?
Sure, I'd love to make that motion. So it's
seconded by Mary Lou.
$200 more, actually.
All in favor? And thanks for coming. And as you know, our rules are that we only give 300 out.
Right.
So we need a delegation when we go above the 300. So
Right. So
and it was nice for you to come and explain. And I just want to put thanks for Judy to. I know Marlene asked me if we could have somebody rep from Minto, and I didn't realize we didn't have a rep. And then I asked Judy because I thought of her background, and hopefully it worked out. I'm sure Judy's doing a good job because she does a good job here, but to be on your organization. And as far as the ATVs go, I mean, I know the one in Thibodale as well. Yeah, and there's a lot of people were very confused, and I know the OPP did a great job of explaining all the different things that were out there. So the bylaw to do countywide is going to be a tough one because of just where we are in the counties. We have different situations in the north than they do in the south, and so but it's on sort of a discussion down there, but I don't know where it's going to go as far as that goes, but you need somebody to push it, I guess.
well, and we even thought, we realized north-south
Yeah,
as its divisions, but we even thought even Minto, Mapleton, and Wellington
at
North.
one time, yeah.
I mean, I realized then we border on North Perth
And
Gray,
Center
so
Wellington.
you still have issues there, but there has to be.
Somebody has
be
to
a-
start.
Exactly.
Mhm.
And I guess the other aspect was,
I agree with
just so I don't have to come here every year, I wondered if this could just be put into maybe.
I don't know.
into
I'd
the
have to ask my rules guy on that.
budget.
I think that was in the motion.
It was in the motion. It was in the motion. We'll put it in the motion. Thank you very much. But well, we'd love to see you. That was good.
Anyone would want you want to all be reminded to stop Think Act, then
all
I'll
right.
just leave a few here, and
Sure.
you guys can help yourself. We like to peddle these as John Deere,
Yep. Oh,
Case,
yeah.
or New Holland.
Oh,
That goes over well
where's
with
the
kids.
well, no international anymore, but I guess the red would be
That's
close.
the case.
Sorry.
That's the case.
And
That's
it
the
doubles
case.
for it
I'll
doubles
just
for
leave a
Massey
few
as
here
well.
for,
And the Massey is the red.
and
Yeah.
Massey,
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Anyways.
it goes over well with the farm kids. So if anyone would like some, I'll just leave a few there. And then
Thanks,
you can
Marlene.
help yourself.
Thanks, Mark.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
they-
Thanks for
Alright,
coming.
so you
didn't want to stay for the whole thing.
They work for
You
more.
guys can all leave now. The delegations can leave if they'd like. Thanks, Marlene.
Yeah, those work for more than accidents, actually. They work for me.
Okay, good. Sorry, Councilor.
Can I
Yeah,
just ask, I know that it is in the motion that you don't have to come every year, but it really would be interesting if you would consider even every 2 years or putting out a report, because that was extremely interesting.
We have Judy now too, so we didn't have Judy
Yeah.
before, so Judy could maybe.
And I did mention a few meetings ago that we're looking for a listing of 2017. I think we're still putting that together of all the activities that we did, and so I'll bring that whenever
Oh, nice, good.
whenever we get it, and then that would give you an idea, like
Yeah.
a really good idea of how many activities there were in 2017.
Thank you.
Sure.
Yeah.
Thank you. Public question period. No. Correspondence received for information requiring direction of council. You want to pull any of these? Don't see anything there that. Mary Lou, yes.
And now I forget which one it is.
Um,
Randy Pettipiece, should we support that?
no?
If I may, I think you did.
We did
send
already.
a
I'm
resolution
sure we
before.
did.
Yes, I think we did this one.
It wouldn't hurt if you wanted to do it again.
Sure.
Well, being it was reintroduced
Yes.
because of prorogation.
Yep.
The municipality of Grey Highlands as well, the increased base funding to Ontario Conservation Authorities, have we supported that? I know we talked about it before.
I think we have.
We have done that one, I think.
I think we did too.
Yes,
But
we did.
if you want to do a motion on both those, and we'll double check that you hadn't on the Conservation Authority done that already.
We'll make that motion.
Okay, moved by and second by Dave. All in favor?
Yeah.
Get that Mary Lou and then Dave. Okay. And the remainder, we can have a motion to accept.
Sure.
Deputy Mayor Faulkner, Councillor Elliott, all in favor? Okay. All right. Okay, reports of committees. That's Saugeen Valley Conservation Authority. Any questions on it?
Do you have any questions?
No, he's Maitland.
You're Maitland Valley.
I know. Are they doing a good job here, Dave? Gonna make that motion?
That's right there.
Moved by
All of the same,
Councillor Turton, second by Deputy Mayor Faulkner, all in favor? Keep up with me. Keep up with me, people.
I'll work
Come
hard.
on.
Who read their minutes?
That's good.
Trails? Oh, yes, we got Greg here for trails.
I found it interesting. So I remember.
Welcome, Greg.
So the Trails Committee met on March 21st at the office. It was one of the first meetings we've had in a little while. We had a bunch of members away over the winter, so there's still work being done, but the first time the committee could get together. So we talked about a few things, what we wanted to do this year, and it's all kind of laid out in the minutes there. If there's any questions.
Any questions there, Chair?
Oh, no, I chaired the meeting, so I should be well informed on that.
No, it's great.
No,
And
thanks.
and
The
I-
only question we have is, and it becomes an issue where the one by committee member Vic Palmer about using the I guess excess piping and
fill
whatnot
pipe and
from the dig in Clifford to put in some muddy spots on the what do you call that area out by the lagoons?
Park Street Extension.
The which?
A Park Street Extension.
No,
that's where he wanted.
no, that's where he wants
wanted
to put
fill.
the fill.
Oh, you're talking about the piping.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
sorry.
yeah. The pipes, and then the other question, of course, that the trails have is the bridge over on White's Road, the branch which we're looking into, and I guess the exciting part of that was the support by the Middle Youth Action Council to help with an official opening and marketing of the trails.
I'm doing my exercises right now so I can do the bike the whole way.
Yeah, that's why I'm looking forward to that.
So I'm in training.
Mhm.
And we may have to have a little competition, maybe.
Take you on it.
Yeah, well, we'll see what that does. But but yeah, that's good. As far as the sewer pipes, I guess we're not really replacing many sewers. So
No,
there's no
so-
sewer pipes, so that's
so it's
not
not
an
an
issue. So we don't have sewer pipes in
I don't think water pipes would do.
water pipes aren't going to work. So, anyways, thanks, Greg, and I'm looking forward to spring, and we can get out there and
Yes.
start.
Yeah, so is everybody else.
Yeah.
Let the work begin. So
Thank you. Do you want to move this?
I would gladly move that.
Deputy Mayor Faulkner and Councillor Dirksen, all in favor? Okay. Parks and Rec, and we have, who drew the short straw? You? Am I?
Thank you, Mayor Bridge.
PrAC meeting.
That's a long report.
Yeah, so just as you'll see in the PrAC minutes, we met in Clifford late last month. Talked about the success of March Break Day Camp program that we ran at the Harriston Arena and Palmerston Arena. We had 60 kids attend various days throughout the week. And it was nice to get another compliment from the Wyndham pool supervisor regarding the behavior of our kids and staff.
Oh, nice.
We've also, since March break, talked about streamlining the pickup and drop-off process for the summer, and this will affect the pricing of our day camp a little bit, which basically means we'll need to bring a pricing proposal back to you in May for your consideration and approval. Nothing earth-shattering, just with our software, it's a lot easier if you have more of a streamlined pricing structure, not as many variables as we currently have right now. There are also two other items in these minutes that will need consideration in May, just because they involve the rates and fees bylaw. And that leads into the outdoor fitness in our parks. We had an inquiry back in 2017 that didn't come to fruition, and we've received two so far this spring. It's important to note that these classes, we go ahead and permit them on our green spaces, would be run by third-party instructors who charge their registrants a fee, similar to groups who rent our facilities. PRAC's recommendation, or part of the discussion last year, was about charging a nominal fee of $15 an hour plus HST, and they endorsed that rate again this year. We can work something out with these instructors, and then if we run into inclement weather, if they're, let's say the train station in Harrison, we could leave them a key that they could go in there if it's bad weather and or use a pavilion. Again, depending on the severity of the weather in that case. Moving along, we're also working on a list of invitees to the next council meeting in April on the 24th to be recognized for outstanding achievement from this past fall, winter, and now early spring. Terminators, the broomball team, are already provincial champions, and they're currently working on becoming Canadian champs this week in Sound.
Last week.
It was last week.
now.
It's over.
Yeah,
Oh,
B-side.
shoot. Okay.
Okay.
Okay, we can certainly still recognize them as provincial champs, so that's all right. And then on the next page, just under the facility manager's report, you'll see a recap of the community meeting we held regarding Harrison Parks and Green Spaces back on Monday, March the 5th, with action items for this summer noted. And with respect to the Harrison Pool renovation RFP, that will be discussed a little bit later on in the agenda. Our ice seasons are over, and now we're focused on baseball and soccer, as long as the snow clears up here, capital projects and special events. Just to point out, in Harrison there, the Skating Club Carnival was our last rental of the year. It was a great show, and in case you missed it, Whiteman Telecom was there, and it's set to air tomorrow night, Channel 6
Cool.
at 6 o'clock. So
Cool.
keeping an eye out. There was a lot of talented skaters out there that day, so be sure to check that out if you can.
Some of yours, kids?
Well, maybe
Not to survive. I was going to say, there are a couple of them.
some grandkids too.
Grandkids in there?
Yeah.
You have grandkids?
Not grand.
And then the third financial item to discuss next month would be Olympia advertising at the arena. So we've had a couple of businesses indicate they might want to do a wrap or a decal on one of the Olympias. So that's something, again, we would have to add to the rates and fees and bring it back to you in May for consideration. That was about it.
Good report.
Questions? Ron, do you want to move?
I can move it, but I wasn't there.
I'll move
Oh, you weren't there. That's right. Oh, that's right. You were busy.
I'll move it.
Okay. Moved by
Busy man.
Councilor Turton, second by Mayor Faulkner. All in favor? Yes, you were at an arena, but
Yes, I was.
a different one. Very good. Thanks, Matt. Okay, staff reports. We have the business, the building assistant, and here comes Michelle. Okay, welcome.
So we have another consent application for us to comment on for 545 Prospect Street. So Jeremy Metzger is severing the property. It already has an existing dwelling on that faces Prospect. We're looking to create a new residential dwelling that will face Derby Street. Staff met. There were no serious concerns or issues noted. The only real issue is that we don't have any dimensions for what is going to be on the vacant parcel, so we may need to come back and request for zoning relief, even when at the time of the permit.
Mayor Faulkner.
Just to clarify, Michelle, those were two natural lots to start with before they became one owner and then became one deed. Is that correct, or has that always been one lot? Now it's being divided. Because it goes right through from Derby to Prospect.
Yeah, Terry might be able to answer that. That's a little history question there, Michelle, that you should have an answer for. You have to go. We always go to the older guys to remember all the history.
We moved to Minto.
Thanks. So I'm one of the older guys now. So those parcels, they're actually 82 and a half by 132 deep. So they're a little bit bigger than original lots. But those parcels in that area are all park lots, not individual lots. So they were never merged. It was all one parcel.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. So there was never like a dividing line where that.
Nope.
Because that would have been a natural divide, right?
Yep, absolutely. But it wasn't in fact.
And I think there was a possibility that it could be a semi going up there.
The applicants aren't sure at this point whether it's a single or a semi. The zone permits anything up to a fourplex, so it could be anything.
Be kind of help for our density situation, so we don't have to put that big high rise in Clifford.
Right. Yes.
The original intent was on the application is to create a semi, but without.
That's fine. No, that's good. It's nice to have another infill in. I need a motion.
Sure.
Mayor
I'll make that motion.
Councilor Anderson, all in favor? Good. Thank you. We'll get you a tough one of these
Thank
days,
you, Michelle.
Like that's you're keeping these easy ones. We'll get you a tough one. What do we got here now?
Chicken.
The bylaw officer is coming. There he is. Always know when he's the bylaw officer, he doesn't have his fire uniform on.
So Norwell would like to put raise 5 hens in the inner courtyard of the high school. It's not accessible it's only accessible from the building. So it's right kind of on the corner of Reagan and York Street. It's totally enclosed. Anyways, you want to put that in as part of their LEAF program, which is local environmental agriculture and food. So I don't know if you guys know anything about it or not.
Yes.
Yep. Quite a big time.
Well versed on that.
I won't go into it then.
Unless somebody else needs to know, but has everybody all right on leaf?
Nice looking coop.
Nice coop.
So yeah, and they're just going to keep chickens until the weather turns, and then one of the staff members will end up taking the chickens home with them and keep them over the winter months. So
Are they going to bring the same chickens back? Like, are they going to be identified?
depends on the chicken wings.
Depends if they're still laying.
Yeah.
Chicken noodle soup.
Yeah, I know.
Other than that, it's pretty simple. The only thing is, it's in our policy. It does say residential, and this is owned as institutional. But I don't see a problem with it. And as far as I know, none of the neighbors have written back and said anything. So,
Any questions for the bylaw officer?
No.
I think it falls into our policy, and other than that,
it's pretty cut dry. And this will probably be the best one because nobody can see it. Probably.
and I do believe when I was in high school we had chickens back there, but I don't know where they were.
They were roosters.
Yeah. No roosters. Anyways, can I have somebody move it?
Yeah.
Councilor Elliott and Councilor Turton, all in favor? Thank you.
Thank you.
Fire chief. Welcome, Chris.
Thanks. So the report that you have is our wage policy. This is something that you've directed me in the past, and we've just kind of put on hold. That you wanted to look at the wages for the firefighters and see what we could do with it. As you can see in the report, I believe I put in there, but they haven't had an increase in over 12 years. So we really haven't looked at it. And I want to make it abundantly clear that they haven't asked for this. This is not something they're demanding or holding us out on or anything like that. But I do think with the pending minimum wage increases coming and other things that are coming up, we should look at this, and this is why it's coming to you. I'm not going to go through it all, but mainly what it is, most of our wage is based off of an hourly rate of $15 an hour. So when they do their truck checks and they do training and at night and they do meetings and that, it's $15 an hour. The proposal is to raise it to $16 an hour. I know it's huge for them. They will be able to afford a couple cases of pop at the end of the year, probably with the increase, and that's about it. The one thing I'll caution and just say is this, as you see in here, that their pay is for every call they go on, because we have such a hybrid system that was adopted when we went together as Minto. They get $35 per call for the first 2 hours. And this proposal doesn't touch that. If we wanted to make a difference in their pay, increasing that is where they would see it, because 70% or higher of their calls are under an hour. So they don't usually go over the 2 hours, so their pay would stay the same as what they've been getting for the past 12 years, simply because of the hybrid system that we're on. So that part is not going to see a change in this proposal. If we wanted to do something, increasing that is where they would see, for every incident that they go on, then they would see an increase. And right now they just see it in their training and the meetings that they go on, they get another $1. So $2 per meeting and $2 per training, because most of ours is cut off at 2 hours.
Yeah, I was going to say your training 2 hours.
Yeah. So.
Well, did you want to bring that at a different time, or are you making a recommendation?
Yeah. Well, it's a point that I had pointed out to me, and I'm just bringing it to your attention. If you want me to bring it back, or if you want to just alter the.
What would your recommendation be?
I honestly don't know. We could, you can go up with the same dollar an hour. You could just even numbers. You could go to $40 for each call they go on.
Sorry.
Through you, Mayor Bridge, could I suggest that, Chief, if you look at the standard across the province and what volunteers get per call, and bring that back to us?
No, you don't.
No.
Because of our system.
Well, people got to wake up.
Most other departments that I do have wage comparisons in files, stuff like that I've been sent. Most other departments pay a flat rate per hour. So they range from $20 to $30 per hour for the calls that they're on, for everything that they do. With our hybrid system, that $35, if they're only out an hour, then they get $35 for that hour.
That's right.
If they're out for 2, then they get $17.50 per hour.
Correct.
So comparing ours to what everybody else makes is very, very difficult, almost impossible.
Okay, thank you.
Where the comparisons are is the wage per annum, like for the officers' pay and stuff like that.
Then may I suggest that you come back with a recommendation for that?
I can, yep.
And I got the treasurer back there. Are we talking something that has to be done before the budget's approved, or no? Okay, it's within our scope.
These changes here.
Yeah, these are such minimal changes that our budgets would be able to handle this.
That's fine. And I probably agree with the deputy mayor that if we could pass this today, and then if you want to do some numbers crunch, and then on the 2 hour thing, because we've said this since I've been here, and this is 8 years. Our fire department, our firefighters work very hard for what they little to get, and what they put back into the community is from all the other things they do as well, from the associations. You guys have gone out and fundraised for equipment, and you're doing around. So we've always said, like, if you feel you need to move the thing up, and I think your point was they're at $15, there's a new minimum wage, that we should be moving that wage up for the training anyways, and maybe have a look at the other and give us a bit of feeling. I'd like to see them get a little bit of a increase, because the complexities of the job are increasing.
It's totally different.
We've talked about it. The young guys coming on, they're going to have to do more training. They're going to have to be certified. They're going to have to write tests. All these things, we don't want to make it so that it's volunteer, I understand, but it's paid volunteer in a sense. So I think unless the council has any concerns, maybe go back and get us some ideas where we're going. Really?
I just wanted to reiterate what the mayor is saying. I don't think any firefighter is there because of the money that they're making. They're there because they love it.
Yep.
And none of them are making a big fee, but they are an integral part of our community. And this little bit, I would like to make the motion that we accept what Chris has presented today and ask him to come back with a further motion on the on-call.
Okay. And second by Councilor Turton. All in favor of that? And there you got your...
Yep, perfect. I'd be happy to do that.
Thanks, Chris.
you.
Oh, Al, we got everybody today.
Oh, this
Well,
is
you have to work to
bonus.
5 anyway, so that's nice to be here right now. All right. Welcome, Al.
Hi, guys.
This is good news, though.
Let's hope so.
Yeah.
Okay. This is just the RFPs for the Harriston pool. Last year, we did some leak testing at the pool and found that
There's a reason.
we were having some problems with our return lines, and our skimmers, one of our skimmers was starting to go too. The pool's was built in 1975, so they've got quite a few good years out of it, but we were losing a significant amount of money, or water, money, same thing, from the swimming pool. So we've been speaking with the Harriston Kinsman Club about this project, and we feel the best thing to do at this point is to replace the skimmers and returns on the pool. To do so, we'd have to dig up part of the deck. We do the main lines right back to the header, which goes back into the filter room. On our specification, we also included a heater, as our heaters gave us some problems last year. And fix up our non-entrapment shutoff device, which is a safety device, so nobody gets stuck to a drain or a skimmer. It'll shut the system down automatically.
Heaven forbid.
Kind of important.
We're not going to say that, Councillor Elliott. So the prices are in, and I'm just looking for a motion to accept the bid from Rinto Pools.
So moved.
Can we not ask why the big difference?
Yeah, well, we'll get it on the floor, and
Sure,
then you want a
on
question.
the floor. All right.
Councillor Dirksen, and now questions. Go ahead, Councillor Dirksen.
Well, the obvious question that everybody has.
What's the difference in price?
Yes.
Yeah, like maybe
What is the
we
difference?
did these one people think that they were building a new pool, or?
Maybe you can talk to that. You did it, Department Head.
The Acapulco Pools bid, they came in, and what they've done is they've doubled the width of the liner, as opposed to bidding on a 30 mil liner, which the spec has requested. They bid on something that was 60 mil. I'm not going to say that's the entire difference in the pricing, but it will be a huge chunk of the difference.
Anybody else got a question?
3 times as much.
Just a comment in the sense that, again, just thanking the Kinsmen for stepping up. I know they were very instrumental in the first pool when it was built, and they're going to do some of the labor. This just, again, shows what a small town can do. We can get things done at a reasonable cost if we work with our partners out there, our volunteers, and again, this is another good example. So I'll pass my comments on to them, Mel, for stepping up to the plate as usual, and all in favor? Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, facility recreation restructuring.
Thank you, Mayor Bridge.
Oh,
we have
you're
our
this one, Bill.
facilities manager and recreation
They're all here.
manager here, but just bringing forward the idea of restructuring in recreation to meet our ongoing needs. The report talks about moving to central booking and how that worked out, and then how we move staff into our office from facilities to deal with a maternity leave, and that evolved into not only central booking but into central scheduling. And I think it allowed us to move more away from running facilities by community and to running facilities by area of expertise. And so this essentially moves arena facilities as community facilities into a recreation and facilities coordinator position, who will have some office space here at the municipal office, responsible for the central booking and central scheduling through the facilities manager and the recreation services manager, but will also be in the field as well, running through those facilities. And then on the other side, we would have parks and satellite facilities. We have a number of them, museums and medical clinics and things that we've increased over the years. And that person would be responsible for those. It helps us align our responsibilities better. We also have a couple people on leave in that department, and this position would be filled by a person returning from a leave in that area. and temporarily filled internally. So our recommendation to you is to go with this restructuring. I think the jury is in on the central booking. I think the public has liked it, and I think it's allowed us to better plan for our facilities and use them more efficiently. I think the proof will come in time as we go forward with the number of bookings and usage and how we schedule our staff. And, I think it's a positive change and would recommend you adopt that.
Questions, Mary Lou?
Not a question. I will
Move it. Mary Lou would move it.
Second.
Ron, all in favor? I thank you very much for that report, Bill, and for all the work that the staff put into doing this. And there was a lot of negotiation back and forth and a lot of good communication, I think, to come up with this structure. So I'm looking forward to how it's going to work out. Next up, you're up again, Bill.
Thank you, Mayor Bridge. We're going to talk some more about solar. We were discussing solar last meeting and the property coverage through JLT, which you approved and which SunSaver is actively pursuing right now. The next step of this is reusing the Greenbush property for some of our ground mount installations. Remember, we have 8 total. We've done the 4 in our facilities on the rooftop, and now it's into the ground mounts, and this is our first one. So they brought forward a site plan for the Greenbush location. It does require some tree removal, but if anyone's been by lately and had a real good look, those trees are pretty rough and some are falling down. So while they would be removing some of those trees, they would be replanting in areas that won't affect the solar panels, and also installing parking area, picnic tables, and a plaque recognizing the Fulton family's gift to the community of that land back in the early 50s. Something new that's in here too is another electronic vehicle charging station, which this is an initiative of the SunSaver too, so they would be installing that entirely at their cost. But what you would have is a better maintained property with these facilities on it, and with an opportunity for people to use it as a place to relax and learn a bit about the Greenbush area, and also maybe a bit about our solar program here. When we're through, it'd be nice to have information. It's a fairly visible location, and I did want to add that I have been in touch with the Fulton family and Mr. Bill Fulton, and he was kind enough to remind me of this commitment that the council made many years ago, and actually even sent some pictures and helped me with the plaque wording. So even though the wording of the plaque that you have has been altered since then, so I have a new one there for you to see, but we have excellent pictures of the whole Fulton family who started arriving in this area in around 1856. Mm-hmm. And I don't know if many of you knew, but I mean, it was a very active part of the community with a school and a train station and a sawmill and post office and people living there. So it's obviously not quite that now, but I think this would be a nice way of recognizing the history as well. So my recommendation is that you approve that plan. They are going through the process of contacting area landowners. That's SunSaver doing that. So that will be continuing under their watch.
Moved by Deputy Mayor Faulkner, second by Councilor Turton. Questions? Gene?
I just wanted to make a comment on the wording of the plaque. And I just have this wording in the plaque. You say that it maybe has changed.
That's the old wording. He's put some feedback on it.
Okay, so I have some feedback on this too, so I don't know if it's the same feedback or not. But I think that what is here is probably accurate, but I don't know whether it tells the whole story, because there was baseball played there in 1980s and 1990s. Mm-hmm. And this would make it look as if since 78 there hasn't been. And so I guess that was the part that I wondered. I know Ken Pike, Larry Agla, probably a Fisk, just because of where it is. There were several people that spent some time and did a lot of grunt work to get it back to being used, and so children's ball did happen there for several years in the 80s and 90s as well.
So we have to research that.
So I just wondered if we could add something to indicate that it wasn't dead and gone in 78.
Yep.
Yeah, it's pretty tough to word a. I wanted to just show you the idea of it and to word a plaque at council, but I'll take your comment under advisement. He has reworded that section. And it eliminated any reference to it not being used since 75. That was something out of one of the local history books, which he pointed out was not accurate too. So what he has said in activity at the park ebbed and flowed over the years. Eventually the site was allowed to naturalize by the town of Minto following amalgamation in 99. So I don't think there was any soft all on it since 99. But again, if council is really interested, I can send the wording of the plaque around before it goes. We're not doing this till the summer, and I'll research any. Excuse me, wasn't going to reflect much of the softball history of the property, more of the family history.
Yeah, I think you're right, Julia. The screens there would have probably been in the 80s, put in there, like the ball screen. So probably in 75 it did go a little bit soft, and then there was more kids around or something, and they ended up making it into a usable diamond. But
yeah, well, we used it. I coached ball there.
Oh, did you? Well, then you know.
I know it
was
right. It was there.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yep.
Gene?
I just have a question about the electrical vehicle charging station. So the company wants to put it in. Who does that ultimately then belong to them? Like eventually, as these come around, you sort of go, who generates revenue from them? How's that all going to be managed, and so forth and so on? As we're going to see more and more and more of them, as there's more and more vehicles. I'm just curious about that.
Well, it's the same arrangement we have for everything. It's on our property, so they'll lease the property. This is a new concept for it. As I mentioned in the report, they pay us a rent, but that was for the solar panels. So we'll have to chat with them about A, maintenance, and B, rent for the charging station. But we've been able to work things out pretty well with them. So yeah, I think you're correct. There should be a right obtained for that. But
how do you pay the charging station?
Well, similar to what we have in
Now are they all sponsored?
in Clifford, we get a small percentage, I believe, off whatever they use it now. But I mean, it's nothing really. I mean,
it's metered. It's metered, and right now on our facilities, the bill comes through our facility, and we pay them the revenue share out of it.
Oh, okay.
And I think they were going to go over, Gene, as well, over to the gas bar and let them know that they might be thinking of doing this. So, and have a discussion with them.
So this is slightly different. That is but what happens is we get all the revenue for the whole thing, from the power provider, and then we pay them and keep our amount. So we're totally in control of the revenue.
I just wasn't sure how it worked. And
This one,
it's going to come up for more and more discussion.
Yep. All right. We have a motion on the floor on that, and all in favor? Great.
Okay.
Holding position.
Oh, well, this is just a general report on what holding bylaws are. It's been a while since council did one, so it's a technical procedure under the Planning Act where you put H's in front of the development zoning. They don't really mean a whole lot other than you can't do anything on them until the H is removed. Removing the H is something that is done as a matter of practice when council is satisfied that the conditions leading to the H have been met. In this case, we're talking about two different locations. The first one is the Murray property up in Clifford, and the second one is First G Capital Harge Gills subdivision in Palmerston. So the property in Clifford had holding provisions related to stormwater management, and that pond was done last year primarily in concert with a development by Deb Molto, and they have cost shared on installing that pond, and that pond has been dedicated to the town, and we will be maintaining it. There is a little bit of work left to do on it, but we're holding security to make sure that is finished. And the second relates to Harge Gills subdivision development and the H related to servicing the land. And in fact, back in 2011, we had somewhat severe restrictions on our sewage use. Those have now been lifted because of our inflow and infiltration program. So we can now remove the H on it because we've signed a subdivision agreement to service those lands. So our recommendation is that you consider those two bylaws when you get to your regular session and they're brought forward for you. There is an explanation in the explanatory note, interestingly enough, about what they're for.
Okay. Questions? Mover? Caldwell, Councillor Turton, all in favor? That nice. And I'll turn it over to Councillor Caldwell.
Okay. And the Finance Committee has 4 items on the agenda tonight.
You're the person.
Very important ones, too.
Yeah.
Paperwork.
I'm well.
And I'll turn it over to Treasurer Duff to talk about our first one, the Main Street Revitalization Initiative.
Great. Thank you, Chair Caldwell. So, yes, we say we have a lot of items. The first one is a good news one. At the end of January at Roma, the Agriculture Minister announced this program to be administered through the Business Improvement Association, which is kind of unique anyway. It's kind of like we're used to federal gas tax going through AMO, but this is going through the Business Improvement Associations, and AMO's involved as well. So this is to help make the environment more attractive for small businesses. So coincidentally, our main project is the reconstruction of Clifford downtown this year. So there's 2 streams. There's the community improvement plan and the physical infrastructure. And as you know, over the last few years, we've completed our community improvement plan, and it's going well. However, we do wish to improve the streetscapes in downtown Clifford. So we've gone to the physical infrastructure stream of the project. And again, what's unique about this program is we know how much it is. In fact, I think the initial announcement is about $43,000. We're now at $45,600. So some qualifying expenditures include the decorative lighting, bollards, and street furniture and that. So that is well in excess of the $45,000. It is up to 100% funding. So that's what we've chosen to apply for under this program. So we received the transfer payment agreement just a few days ago, and so we'd like to authorize the mayor and clerk to do that. And the one unique thing, they require a completely separate account, so I'm looking into setting up a bank account or something that's not a lot of hassle, because it is $45,000. But anyway, we will do that, and there's some electronic signatures. So anyway, all good.
Any questions? No? Then the recommendation is that council receives the report from the treasurer dated April 3rd, 2018 regarding the municipal funding agreement for the Ontario's Main Street Revitalization Initiative program and considers a bylaw in open session authorizing the mayor and CAO clerk to sign the agreement. Have someone make that motion, please? Mayor Bridge, seconded by Councillor Elliott. All in favor? And the motion is passed. And the next item on the agenda is debenture financing.
Okay, so I'm going to probably have to refer to the debenture and the budget at the same time, because not surprisingly, one has implications for the other. So when we had our capital budget, it was January the 9th, shortly after New Year's, and a lot of the work that went into those figures was prepared in very early winter. Since then, a few things have changed. One, we were anticipating some funding for the Queen Street South project in Palmerston, and that did not happen, so we've totally taken the funding and the expenditures and everything out of the budget on that one. Also, on the Clifford project, our engineers' initial thoughts were almost $1.2 million in expenditures on extending water and sanitary sewer servicing. And they've met with landowners and different things. They've evaluated the size of the pipes. And so bottom line, what's happened is that whole piece has come down to about $450,000. Meanwhile, we've also met with Wisterio, and Wisterio is putting a big investment into Clifford, not just on the Elora Street, but in the area towards Geddes and that too. So also council has actually let the tender, approved the tender, Northfield. So we have a figure for that. So our overall figures, I think, are more accurate, but they are higher. So the overall cost of the project's gone up, and the share of expenses for roads, meaning taxes, has also increased too. So we also estimate that we're going to have about $500,000 of the work to be completed in 2019. So we've got that going on the one hand. In 2017, we approved borrowing of $250,000 for the George Street South project. Now that project was late in starting, so there's always a lag. The work comes in, then we get the bills, and we pay the bills. And at the time that we passed the 2017 budget, approximately a year ago, we thought the county may be borrowing in the fall. So we thought, okay, we'll put our $250,000 with that. They decided not to proceed, so I instigated proceedings to do some construction financing with Infrastructure Ontario. But again, because of the late start of this project, we didn't really require that. So I'm proposing to wrap that $250,000 into this one. The county is 99% sure they're going forward with a debenture issue this spring, and we can also save some financing agent and legal expenses if we go with the county. So I've kind of politely said thanks to Infrastructure Ontario, but I don't think we'll pursue that, and we'll go there. So bottom line, that's how we got from roughly 1.5 million to the 2.1 million, and that is contained in the budget. So the choice is, it's kind of like if you're buying a car or a house or something, is the terms. Now the Infrastructure Ontario, one nice thing about them, they'll do 7 years, 12 years, if you remember with the healthcare, 30 years. County, it's pretty much 10 years or 20 years. So there's a trade-off. If you can do it all in 10 years, your overall interest cost is lower. But I've prepared a chart. You can see the annual cost is higher too. Again, the rule is you want to debenture over a term that is equal to or less than the expected life of the asset. So with water and sewer, pretty much like 20 years, we're talking things that have a 50 or 60-year lifespan. For the road service is generally 10, but in Clifford, we're doing a lot of underground work based that, so I think I could justify $1,550,000. So that's, I guess, what I'm looking for council direction under this report. If you're comfortable with the amount, and if so, what term would you like to go for?
Okay, I just want to mention that I wasn't comfortable with the amount at first, and that's why I asked Gord to put together this little thing, and I thank you very much for that. The other thing that I have been assured of is that you have built in some contingency just in case the Clifford project goes over.
Yes.
And
so
if that does happen and we don't need the contingency, that money will be put into a reserve for future capital projects.
Yes. So we have, you've got two types of risks. The cost could go over or the revenue could be under. Under connecting link, and probably Councillor Turton will remember on previous projects, you have to prove to the ministry that you've spent the funds on what they're funding and no more. Like, for example, they may require a certain type of asphalt. Their engineers may say, well, we need a better type of asphalt. Well, they won't fund the difference. So we anticipate the funding. We may not get it. We also hope we'll get some contributions from benefiting landowners, especially at the north end of Clifford. But negotiations are far from concluding. So yes, any upside surprises will go back into capital reserves for road work.
Yes, Mayor Bridge.
And then I just wanted, talking to Councillor Caldwell on this, and she's chair of finance, so we had this discussion, and that was always the thought in my mind. And there's some unknowns out there, and because we're going to be probably going in a lame duck as well, we have to sort of have a little bit of a cushion. And I think borrowing at one time and being an ex-banker, I see interest rates going up. So we are going to lock in some interest rates in the spring, which if we did try to borrow in the fall, if we could have, might be a little bit. So I'm willing to. I mean, I know we originally only talked about 1.5. I think was it, Mary Lou?
Yeah.
1.5.
Okay, yeah.
But I understand where we're coming from, and I'm very hopeful that we're going to get some good money from some of the landowners and some of the things that might get developed out there, because we are stretching our sewer and water to where there could be some development. So I'm looking forward to that. So I guess I'm a half full guy. I'm thinking we're going to be all right, but it doesn't hurt to have the treasurer be able to sleep at night and have enough money in his coffers so that he doesn't have to toss and turn. So I'm willing to take the risk on that side that we're boring maybe a little bit more than what we thought we would have. But yeah.
And the council also has been given
Yes.
charts
Yeah.
on the reserves and debt position, and we still have a healthy exceeding reserves over debt, even with this increased loan. Yes, Deputy Mayor vote.
That's a mouthful, yeah. Anyway, what I always like to thank you for all this work. This makes it very easy for laymen like myself to understand. One of the things of pride that I look at is what the previous council and this council has done in respect to attacking our infrastructure issues. And do you see our demand on this type of thing declining in the future? Because I know there's no such thing as status quo. You're either going backwards or forwards. But the growth predictions, I think, are way off for the town of Minto.
Yeah.
And so, are you comfortable with that being part of that prediction?
Yeah, I think it's always the balancing act between taxes, user fees, reserves, and all that. And, hopefully we'll get the updated asset management plan, and it's going to show a huge infrastructure deficit, as with every municipality in Canada.
Right. That's right.
But we are, we're hacking away at it. And if you think connecting links now, the present government has committed to maintaining that program. We only have so many connecting links. We've done Harrison, we've done that. So there's an end in sight there, yes. We've got our rural roads, our bridges, like there's no end of projects. The Clean Water Wastewater Fund, which in the last 2 weeks I've read reports it's complete, gone, or it's coming back. But anyway, we put our heads together and came up with 10 projects that would qualify just for water, wastewater. So there's always going to be a demand, and we're never going to have enough money. So I can see, like that is an ongoing thing.
And I just want to say, like, I'm so proud of our staff in respect to scheduling that stuff. I took it upon myself to go for a road tour, and the number of roads that are being closed because bridges are just being closed in the county is phenomenal. And we haven't had to do that, and my hat's off to our staff and you, sir.
Yeah, it's a challenge.
Yes, Mayor Briggs?
And just to point out, and when you look at the graph, and this is something that Councillor Caldwell and I worry about always, and we've worried about it for almost 8 years now. But it's very important that we do a good job of putting reserves in our budget every year, so that when we have to buy trucks, we have to buy things that's there. And if last year we didn't borrow, and we reduced our debt by $1 million, so we're paying good debt payments. So that's why this is important to keep under everybody's eye, to keep that balance there as best as possible. I believe, Bill, we've done how many million of 40. Over like $40 million worth of infrastructure repairs in not this term, but last two terms, which for a small town, that's a lot. And I'm sorry, we'll never probably see the end of it. I mean, there's a light at the end of the tunnel. It's not always the train, but we'll be there. And what I give credit to both levels of government, they finally realized that, again, and I say this every time we get in this situation, we have 9% of the tax base, and we're going to be passing the budget later, 60% of the infrastructure. We're starting to see more and more of that relief coming from both levels of government. They still want to give it to us on a string, make us put a sign up and all the other things, which I
yes.
get really ticked with. But at the end of the day, they are coming with better percentages. I mentioned from Federation of Canadian Municipalities, we're up to 50% on the federal money now. So hopefully that gap that we have to do, which we're talking about today, and one of the reasons we have to borrow, is the project in Clifford, we only get 2/3. Now, if we could get to that point where we'd be having to only pay 15% in, we could do more of it, right? And so I think the governments understand that. They know we have to fix the infrastructure. They have all the money. They have the gas tax. They have all the other stuff that's going on. So I think I really want to credit this council for doing what they've done over this period. And you know, I hate borrowing money, but we have to borrow.
You have to pay, and you have to pay it back.
But I think we do it. We're doing it on and we're doing it on a fairly good level basis, and that's what we have to keep up. Sorry.
Okay. Is there any other comments or questions? Yes.
So what term are you comfortable with?
Well, part of the recommendation is the term that you've laid out. Is
Okay,
that correct? Is there anyone that would like to talk about the term different than from what is laid out in the schedule?
Okay.
Lord knows best.
Okay. Then the recommendation is the council accept the treasurer's report dated March 27th, 2018 regarding debenture financing and request the County of Wellington to borrow $2,100,000 on, see, I can't even say it, on behalf of the town of Minto over 10 and 20 years as directed. May I have someone make that motion, please? Mayor Bridge and Councillor Turton, all in favor? And the motion is passed. And the next item on our agenda is the big one, the approval of the budget.
Yes. So we've covered the biggest numbers. The operating really hasn't changed other than a couple of things to make the taxes come out even. There's been a couple of smaller additions in the water and sewer, primarily for pumps and things that have occurred. Both at the lagoons and Minto Pines, that work's been a bit higher. And we also put in the Railway Museum, we put aside $15,000 last year, so we're proposing to spend that on upgrades this year too. So that's in there. The other thing that we don't have, not even 2 weeks ago, we did receive preliminary approval of our municipal disaster assistance one regarding the June flood, and it's $260,000 approximately. So that's not in here. There's a lot of unknowns connected with that. There'll still be a contribution agreement, I'm sure, coming, and we have to spend a certain amount of money, of course, to do that. So some of that money is already spent. It was, staff time and emergency replies, but the two primary things are a culvert and some soil line. And I talked to again our roads foreman. We still need some better cost estimates, and the timing. It's not certain if we need certain environmental approval, so we don't even know if that'll be this fall or that. But if it is this fall, hopefully we'll know all this before the end of June, so that if council has to modify the budget, we do have enough time. But those are the main unknowns that are not reflected here. But other than that, the overall $520,000 contribution to capital is the same, and the operating is what we discussed back in the fall in January.
Okay, are there any questions or comments?
Nope.
Okay. Then the recommendation is the council of the town of Minto accepts the treasurer's report dated March 29th, 2018 and considers the passage of the related budget bylaw in regular session. Mayor Bridge, Deputy Mayor Faulkner, all in favor? And the motion is passed.
Shenanigans, I tell you.
And the last item on the finance agenda is the approval of accounts.
Okay, so our final routine, the figure isn't as large as some of the ones we've had. However, in people and property, 100% is the Maitland Valley levy, almost 99,000 this year. We also have the firefighters insurance that we do every year, and for a little over 14,000. And we've got the nice new sign at the Norgan for 11,000 if anyone's driven by. It's all active, and They made about a
Last
$3,000
one.
deposit on the Live to Lead, which will be
What do you mean
first
made?
Friday in October too. So for 3,000. So those are the highlights.
Hey, any questions? The recommendation is the Council of the Town of Minto receives the Treasurer's report dated March 30th, 2018 regarding approval of accounts and approves the Town of Minto accounts by department for February and March 2018. Can someone make that motion, please? Councillor Dirksen, seconded by Councillor Anderson. All in favor? And the motion is passed.
Great.
Could I,
Thank
could
you.
I ask,
Yes, I'm
mention something that just want to say that town or Norgan sign is coming out of reserves, but it shows as an expense to,
Oh, right.
and the reserves were raised by the volunteers. So,
And the sign is gorgeous.
It is nice.
Boy, it's beautiful. It is.
but it shows through the town expense, but it does come out of reserves that were put in by volunteers.
Generated. Now that the
That's
debt's
wonderful.
paid off. And
Yeah.
All the debts paid off.
Absolutely.
Thank you very much, Gord. And I now pass the chair back to Mayor Bridge.
And I'll pass it off to Councillor
Thank you, Mayor Bridge. We've got two items on the Public Works agenda today. The first one, Mr. Mark Robinson, our wastewater foreman, is going to tell us about it. And I gotta say that those are great pictures. I mean, a picture tells 1,000 words. Those two pictures are great. So thank you, Mark, and go ahead.
Thank you. Yeah, so I guess we'll just jump right into it. It's sanitary sewer CCTV inspection in the town of Hairston. Some more I&I work. Council is very aware of the importance of this I&I work. Some background on it. In 2007, BM Ross was hired to do a full I&I inspection of the Hairston collection system. They came up with 5 recommendations in that study. Up to date, we have completed 4 of them. This tender is regarding the 5th recommendation, which is to conduct additional video inspections of the lateral servicing in the spring as well as in the main line to identify if there is a significant source of infiltration between the main sewer and the properties. The tender was completed with some assistance from Triton. It has 15,000 meters of CCTV work in the main line and 900 lateral sewer service connections. So again, that's that's not just in the bottom picture on the left hand side. That's your typical CCTV camera work that you would put in. Just have the camera go down the main, and you would just assess structural deficiencies in the main. This contract actually has a second camera on that camera that goes up the lateral towards the property. And
wow,
yeah, it's pretty
impressive.
It's pretty impressive
You
technology.
don't have to ride on that camera.
Yeah, no, you don't want to be doing that.
You could, Ron.
We'll put you on it first.
And in the image shown, there are a lot more sources of infiltration than just in the main line. So we're hoping to identify a bunch of those, and hopefully we can get them corrected. We received 3 bids. They're listed there. In the tender, it does not include an engineer's report or recommendations for the overall findings of the project. Town staff will be reviewing the information and analysis supplied by the contractor. We through the tender process, we required that analysis to be submitted in various forms to the town. One of those being in an Excel format, so it will be easily incorporated into our citywide asset management program by road segment, changing it from for the sanitary sewers from an age-based to quality-based assessment, which is going to help us out quite a bit. Staff has reviewed the submissions, and we recommend the lowest bidder, DM Robichaud, at $126,750. This is slightly more than the $120,000 that we had budgeted for this work. However, in the tender, it does allow for a 10% reduction in both meter units and service lateral units. So that could reduce the cost. In sections where we actually don't think it might be necessary, an example would be George Street. It's a new street.
Brand new.
Yeah, we might not need to camera that section. Or just to bring it down into the allotted budget. We are satisfied with the work being completed. It will identify some major sources of inflow and infiltration in the collection system, and it'll also provide a structural assessment for the mainline sewer as well as the lateral services. And this information is very important when we're applying for capital projects going forward.
Questions? Deputy Mayor Faulkner.
Just thank you, Councillor Turton. I know how valuable the I&I reports were to me back when we started doing all this, and I know you mentioned that town staff will review the results of the camp. I would like the results forwarded to council as well, simply because I know how valuable those initial reports were for me understanding what had to be done to our infrastructure. So I would make that formal request, Councillor Turton.
All right. Thank you. Councillor Caldwell?
Through you, Councillor Turton, just a quick question, Mark. Have you worked with this group before? I'm just looking at the difference in the tenders again. They're quite drastic.
Yeah, DM Robichaud has done work in the town of Minto. They're a very large company. By increasing the scope of our work, I think that's what drew them in. They're a big company, and we provided a big enough tender for them to be interested. That was.
And why do you think there's such a drastic difference in the tender amounts?
There's large unit numbers, and the dollar values weren't that different, but the large unit numbers made the big difference in the tenders.
Other questions? All right. So the recommendation is that the council receives the April 10th, 2008 report from the wastewater foreman regarding tender 6629-18, sanitary sewer CCTV inspection, Hairston, and awards the tender to DM Robichaud Associates Limited at a price not to exceed $126,750, excluding HSD, funded from the 2018 capital budget. Can I have a mover? Oh, sorry.
Just and to add to that staff report back on the results, I think was what.
Oh, sorry. Yep. Yes. Pardon me. So we're going to add that on, and Councillor Elliott, are you going to move that?
I would.
Seconder? Councillor Dirksen, all in favor of that motion? Against? That's carried. Thank you very much. Look forward to that report.
Yep. Thank you.
Videos, Crave TV.
Yeah. Yes.
Second item that we have is from Mr. Mike McIsaac, has to do with the Noble Road in Palmerston. So, floor is yours, Mike.
Thank you. So this is just the results of the tender which just closed for the construction of the Noble Family Road extension, which will then service and open up 4 more industrial properties there in Palmerston. We had 4 submissions, and we have the recommendation with Hannon Hamilton, which they've done work for us over the years here as well, with minimal
questions. It's interesting that we did get 4 tenders.
Yeah, it's excellent.
I think the reason for that too is it was out early enough, and companies are still looking for work, so it worked out well.
No questions? Okay. Then the recommendation is that the council receives the road and drainage foreman's April 6, 2018 report, Triton Engineering, Palmerston Noble Family Road tender, and that the project be awarded to Han and Hamilton, a price of $251,908.55 plus HST funded from the 2018 capital budget. Thank you very much. Councillor Caldwell, can I have a seconder, please? Councillor Elliott, all in favor of the motion? Against? That's carried. No, thank you very much. I'll pass the.
Back over. Thank you, Councillor Church.
I'm waiting for high fives here.
I know.
Back to our mayor. Thank you.
Okay, so I have other business. I have, I think, Judy. Judy first.
Yeah. Go on first?
Yep.
Okay. Well, I just want to congratulate the Wellington Advertiser on 50 years. All of our media partners are do a great job for us, but Wellington Advertiser is celebrating 50 years, so they get special recognition tonight. Unfortunately, it was a little stormy the day you picked, so yeah, that spring storm kind of kept some of us away. I also want to report that the Louise Marshall Hospital building project is finally getting to the tendering stage. It is one long, arduous process. This project was first applied for in 2012.
Yeah.
It's an $18 million project, and there's also a smaller project at PDH as well. And that's all I have to report.
Thanks, Jude. Questions for Jude? Really? Oh, you have your turn.
Yes,
Yep, your turn.
I just thought of one thing I should report. Minto Chamber of Commerce Achievement Awards is April the 26th at the Harrison Legion. Sorry, 7 o'clock, I believe.
I think so. I think it's 7.
I'll let you know at the next meeting for sure the time, but it is April the 26th at the Harrison Legion. Tickets are available through the Launch at Minto site or office or Belinda.
I have 6 to 9 in my book.
You've got 6 to 9?
I think it's 6.
Oh, you've got
7 is dinner.
Seven is dinner.
So
Yeah, it's
6
right
to
here.
7 to be social, and then 7 is dinner.
Sure.
Yeah,
that makes
I think it's
sense.
right
Yes.
here on this.
We happen to have these.
Oh, you didn't get one of these?
No, I didn't.
Oh, yeah, so-
I don't think oh, wait a minute. Yes, I do.
Yep.
Right here.
Anyways, okay, thank you. Who else I have?
Okay.
David?
Yes, thank you, Mayor Bridge. I just wanted to announce that the
got two.
Maitland Valley
I got two.
Conservation Authority Gala
Okay.
fundraiser and silent auction is it's Saturday night, April 21st. It's in Brussels, same as always. And every year the town of Minto donates a little gift basket for the silent auction. And I'd appreciate it if I could get somebody to get that for us, if it's okay, and so I can take it a week from Wednesday.
Sure.
Thank you.
You work with Annalee.
Yep, I'll work with Annalee.
That'd be a wash.
I've got just a couple of items. Clifford digging it is this Wednesday or tomorrow.
Tomorrow night.
Oh, gee.
No, there's no dig it.
Digging.
Dig it. Okay.
Meetings.
Where's Belinda? Tomorrow night is the meeting, and hopefully people can come out to that. And I think I'll have a good crowd, so we'll see everybody there. I'm going to be going on Thursday with Gord and 6 of our youth up to Blue Mountain, I guess, Blue Mountain. And what's the actual name of the event, Gord?
Part of
The conference. Yeah. Yeah. Right. So as you know, we won the Youth Friendly Award, so I'm going up and doing a little help representing you guys on that, and and I was talking to Taylor, and the kids are really excited about it. They get to go to a little gala type thing, and that's great. And I will also be doing a video on Friday afternoon or Friday morning at the high school. Whiteman's doing a whole thing on youth, and we're going to be getting and doing some youth things, and all the Mayor Driscoll's going to be there, Mayor Lennox, and we're going to be talking about our program going forward and what we're going. So present you there, and the Mayor's Breakfast, the first one's in Clifford on Friday, and I think it's filling right up. So
This Friday?
This Friday at 7:30 at the Grandma Joe's. Gemstones. Don't go to Grandma Joe's. There's nobody there. Gemstones.
Might be there, but
Might be there. Anyways, okay, that's it for me. And anything else? Anybody else got anything? You remember? No? All right, moving along. But Bill, we got 5 minutes. Do we go back in regular, or do we Do we have to wait? Why don't we take a 5-minute break? Everybody can get up, step around, then we have a public meeting. I know, sorry. Yeah, public meeting at 5 o'clock. Okay.